Hello, good evening. Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, yes, just a minute. Good evening.
Okay.
So we will start the session today. Like,
Yes, sir.
Dr. John, you are on mute.
I'm so sorry. So, should we start, Dr. Chinmaya and everyone?
Yeah, just a minute. I would like to introduce Miss Bhagyasri Misra. She will be the moderator for today, and she is working as a assistant professor at IMT Pharmacy College, Puri. Her background is MSc microbiology. So, uh, over to you, Bhagyasri. You can introduce our speaker, and let's start.
Good evening, ma'am. Good
Good
evening,
evening.
Nitik. This is Bhagyasri Mishra. Okay. Dr. D'Souza, good evening. Uh, with this, Dr. D'Souza, I would like to introduce Dr. D'Souza to the meeting. Uh, is the pharmacovigilance physicians and the consultants. They have an expertise in pre and post safety surveillance in the pharmaco and medical devices. With this previous experience of I'm believer in the in sharing her knowledge, the DIA World Drug Safety Congress, Europe and America, International Society of Pharmacovigilance, ISOP, uh, Global Pharmacovigilance Society, the American Medical Writers Associations, the Europe Medical Writer Associations, and the Pharma International Conference in Europe. The includes with this oncologists, dermatologists, and pain management, infectious disorders, vaccinations, and diabetes and pain management. She is active in the several ISOP special interest groups. With this presentations of different of drug devices combinations, she used to active participations in the pharmacovigilance and medical devices special interest group of the European Medical Associations. Education backgrounds. With this education, she actually is a lawyer, but in the interest of in the states of many state, USA, and the physicians with the bachelor's in the homeopathic medicines and surgery, she earned a then least in the recognitions for the academic performance with the completions after the completions of a post baccalaureate clinical research programs at the University of Cincinnati in the USA. She obtained an advanced diploma in the pharmacovigilance and sector trainings. With this, I would like to yeah, and request to continue Dr. D'Souza. Start the meetings with you.
Thank you so much, Bhagyashree, and thank you so much, Dr. Chinmaya. And I truly appreciate Clovis Med for inviting me today. It's been such a pleasure to speak here and share our knowledge. And this is a great sharing a knowledge platform that Clovis Med has created. It gives an opportunity for all of us to know each other as well as to know each other's expertise. So with this, I would like to start off with my presentation. I'm going to focus here specifically on advancing safety of drug device combination products. And just let me share my slides here. Do I have the screen sharing rights, Dr. Chinmaya?
Yes, yes, yes. You can share your screen.
Okay, thank you. Can you see my slides here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you. Uh,
Yes,
can you see?
yes. Now it's okay.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. D'Souza.
Okay, perfect. So here we are going to talk about advancing safety with new technologies, with so many new technologies are getting developed in the area of medical devices and combination products. We are going to today specifically focus on how we can, kind of advance the safety of these vital area, which is so critical these days. So, here we are going to have like a nice overview. Then we are going to go deep dive into innovations in combination products and new technologies. And we are also going to study a regulatory landscape, quality management, what are certain challenges which are being posed, and in the area of advancing safety, as well as in regulatory management of drug device combination products, as well as we are going to understand what are the future imperatives, or what are the future, the ways that we can kind of help to overcome these challenges. So this is, and this could be like just an basically like an overview, and it may not be like a deep, we are not going to kind of go deeply because there's not much adequate time here. So the presentation will discuss the evolving landscape of medical device safety, as well as it will focus on the use of advanced technology such as AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data analytics, as well as it will emphasize how these technologies can help in reducing human error, improve patient outcomes, and address any use-related errors. It's also going to highlight the challenges and potential biases in algorithms used for safety assessments, as well as the importance of equitable access to new technologies. We are also going to explore the advantages of a combination product and the benefits in the area in a regulatory landscape. The benefits and the challenges, and we are also going to kind of further emphasize the need for transparency and accountability, as well as a collaboration to create a future where we can have medical devices and combination products safe and more effective for all patients. Okay. So the evolution of combination products we are going to kind of touch on are what are actually combination products, what are actually innovations that we are looking here for, and what are the new technologies which are going to drive these advancements. So, or the advancements in this combination product. So combination products are basically when you combine either drugs or devices or biological products. And certain examples could be any drug-eluting stents, inhalers with digital sensors. And what are the innovations here? We are kind of trying to look into in combination products, that how we can make these enhance the safety, how we can enhance the efficacy through various synergistic approaches, as well as how we can personalize these medicines and tailor these medicines treatments for specific individuals and improve patient compliance and convenience. The new technologies which are going to drive here, we are going to talk about nanotechnologies, certain 3D printing, as well as Internet of Things, which are like smart devices with remote monitoring. Okay. And a kind of a relationship between these two smart devices. So the first topic would be innovations in combination products and new technologies. This is the way that I've divided into this presentation. And so first, let's understand what is the importance of medical device and the importance of medical device safety. So we know that medical devices are very critical in our modern healthcare. They kind of adjointly help the drugs in order to deliver life-saving treatments, also help in diagnosing as well as monitoring patient conditions. However, if these medical devices are not appropriately used, and then we can have malfunctions, or because of their inherent issues as well, and if it is not used appropriately, then it can have serious consequences for patients. So patient safety is really important here, and let's understand what is patient safety here in healthcare. Patient safety is actually the absence of preventable harm. So we are talking here about any preventable harm. So it's actually very sad that there are certain harms which are preventable and still burden our economy. So the patient safety is basically emphasizing on the absence of these preventable harm to a patient and reducing any unnecessary harm which is associated with healthcare to bare minimum. So this is, or to an acceptable minimum, we could say. So this is basically in order to understand that how we can organize these activities in order to create a culture of safety, reduce risk, and minimize avoidable harm. This is the same like what we could talk about in PV, we are very much aware of pharmacovigilance definitions. So this we can kind of align it to medical devices and drug device combinations as well. And this is, we know that the amount of errors, I mean, it's like if you kind of understand almost like every, 1 in 4 to 5 patient actually dies because of or suffers because of any preventable harm to in a healthcare setting. So patient safety is really fundamental to healthcare, moral and financial considerations in healthcare. And these common sources of patient harm are really sad, which could be the medication error when the medication is under the control of a healthcare in a healthcare organization or a healthcare person, such as a physician, nurse, or etc. And 1 out of every 30 patients can actually suffer from medication error with either severe life-threatening consequences. There are also surgical errors. So despite of awareness, despite of all the kind of drive that we are trying to create, still there are surgical mistakes which persist, which account for almost 10% of preventable error. Then we also have infections which are healthcare associated, and this can lead to extended health hospital stays, disability, as well as avoidable deaths. So here, the reason I'm trying to emphasize is these are all preventable, avoidable harm, and we have to try to make our utmost effort in order to ensure patient safety in the healthcare, in order to reduce this financial as well as economical and ethical and moral burden in our society. So this is the drive here, and I'm really glad that Clovis Med has created this drive for all of us in order to understand and create awareness of pharmacovigilance in a healthcare setting. So again, in order to understand the economic impact that it can have, so patient harm potentially reduces global economic growth by 0.7% annually. So this is a vital thing if you look at like in an overall view and a youth setting. And it can actually cost trillions of US dollars if, each year. And this is avoidable, right? I mean, this is due to harm related expenses. This we can actually try to control here. So reducing patient harm not only saves cost, I mean, as you can see, but also improves patient outcomes, ethically as well as morally. We are trying to understand how we can improve patient outcome here in a healthcare setting. So here, I'm just trying to give you an overview of any new technologies which are coming up in order to improve this medical device safety. So we have to understand, looking at the cost that, that it creates in our economy, looking at how, it can kind of reduce patient safety. These new technologies are really vital, and there is more and more technologies are coming up, but we are kind of trying to focus on certain ones which are actually up in the market. These are artificial intelligence or machine learning, big data analytics, computer modeling and simulation, as well as virtual reality. We can also few more, like, in medical devices, we have 3D printing and additive manufacturing, which creates kind of a customized medical devices. Where three-dimensional objects are created based on any personalized medications or personalized in order to create any personalized medical devices. And we can see this specifically in the area of orthopedic and cranial implants, as well as surgical improvements, dental restorations, as well as external prosthetics. So the drive here is to kind of improve patient safety, but at the in a way that we can customize it and have a minimal invasive procedures, as well as we can tailor it to individual needs and personalize these medical devices. So we also have robotics and AI and ML in medical devices for precision surgery and diagnostic imaging. So this is in order to create, like, again, we are trying to improve your patient safety by accurate interpretation of diagnostic images through AI and ML, artificial intelligence and machine learning, as well as precise manipulation in order to assist the surgeons during the procedures. And So that so that we have minimal invasive procedures here. We have accuracy in procedures for diagnostic imaging, and sometimes the robots can carry out entire surgeries. So it's amazing how we have come to this century where we have all these new technologies which are helping us to improve patient safety. So we also have certain nanotechnologies here for improved biocompatibility and drug delivery. And, again, this is for precision and precision building, where nano carriers are actually used and especially in the area of cancer treatment, oncology. And the benefits here are to precisely targeting all these harsh tumors. So basically all these through nanotechnology, the nanocarriers precisely target specific tumors here through microenvironments, and there is also controlled drug release. So again, we are trying to reduce patient harm, reduce medication errors, or reduce, improve pharmacovigilance or patient safety. And we have controlled drug release here, which targets only these harsh tumors. And the materials here are various, which are mesoporous silica, metal oxides, black phosphorus, and all these are materials which are highlighted here in order to develop these nanotechnology or nanomaterials so that we can have precision targeting for these tumors. So please bear in mind that we are just going through this high level understanding of all these new technologies, and there's so much to learn here. There's so much to deep dive, and hope I'm helping you all to create some sort of awareness, some sort of an interest, so that you can go ahead and do some self-study and explore these areas more. So these nanoparticles, as I was talking about, for targeted drug delivery in the area of oncology and controlled release. So they are actually engineered carriers that can deliver therapeutic agents with precision. And so we have enhanced efficacy, enhanced safety, reduces side effects, minimal impact on other health tissues or surrounding health tissues, and eventually improve patient outcomes through these controlled release mechanisms. So the benefits are again here, they're designed to target specific cells or reduce side effects on healthy cells. Then we have controlled release here, can slowly and so the drugs are released slowly over time and improve drug efficacy, and as well as reduce excessive dose frequency. But the challenges here are that we need more and more training in this area. We need precise control over nanoparticles is needed for consistent drug delivery, as well as scaling up production for clinical use can be difficult. So we have to scale up the production for clinical use, which can be actually burdensome, both with respect to cost and with respect to training, as well as long-term effect of all these nanoparticles is still under investigation. So more research is required in order to understand the efficacy and safety of these nanocarriers. So I was also talking about 3D printing here, how we have these customized implants which are built, as well as prosthetic tailors in order to meet precise requirements. So basically here 3D printings are created which are customized to the patient's unique anatomy, and creation of implants and prosthetics, specifically in the area of orthopedic as well as dental restorations, and precisely so that all these implants precisely fit and reduce complications and improve comfort. So again, there is a drive here in order to increase efficacy as well as reduce any harm which can be created, as well as personalized implants lead to faster recovery times and reduce post-operative pain, so which also reduces cost as well as patient discomfort. So, but the whole idea here is to improve also surgical planning and education, and guide surgeons preoperatively as well as intraoperatively. So as I initially mentioned, that the application here that is Education is more required, training, medical education benefits for 3D printed models, as well as we have to customize aids in prosthesis and implant production. So all these requires a lot of investment, as well as a lot of time. It's time consuming, but it has its own benefits. So this is an area also which can help and which has to go hand in hand along with AI and machine learning, especially in the area of patient safety. So the advantages here are, again, customization for patient-specific needs. We are reducing production lead times, as well as design material considerations. We have to consider about biocompatibility, material selection, as well as, all these printing parameters are also under consideration. But the whole drive here is to monitor patient response, implant integration, as well as the clinical outcomes can be quite positive, especially when it comes to long-term performance and durability, as well as adverse event reporting and follow-up studies. But as I said, there is more research required, especially in this area, as we kind of try to do precision medicine, as well as precisely develop this and customize specifically for patient-specific needs. So we spoke about this again. I just wanted to kind of emphasize here how nano coatings can minimize immune responses, and also reduce implant rejection. But coatings can alter surface properties. But anyways, we have to kind of have the purpose here is to enhance the functionality of medicine implants. So we spoke about robotics as well here, where we have these robotic surgeries also, which also are helpful, and these are again a part of advanced technologies in medical devices. Robots offer fine-tuned movements, reduce human errors, as well as can be minimally invasive. And sometimes robots can even surpass human hand movements, so improve dexterity. So this can also improve patient safety. So we are talking here about improving accuracy, reducing human errors. We are talking about better patient outcomes so that we can have early detection and precise planning, leading to improved care. So all these technologies become so important in order to for future advancement of our medical devices, as well as drug device combinations, and to develop personalized treatment treatment strategies. So we just kind of, I kind of wanted to more and more emphasize this area. So I created a few extra slides here. But we are here talking about, again, a real-time monitoring, which is really important here, which can also, in order to play safe, as well as continuous system self-checks are required here in order to ensure that these systems work well, as well as what happens if these systems shut down. So, we say that, all these advanced technologies can actually, we have to say that they work adjointly with human technology or human manpower. So we can actually never underestimate a human power, or we can also we'll always say that they work adjointly with human beings. So backup power, adjoint power, human power is always necessary here. And real-time monitoring with human is always required. So all these advanced technologies will basically never ever replace humans, but they will always be work adjointly in combination and be supportive of any human needs which are required, or a human experience which is required. So, but certainly that comes with specialized training to operate these robotic systems, and being familiar with interface and practice on these vital mechanisms that are so important. And again, we are kind of trying to understand here what could be the safety considerations with these new technologies. We can talk about biocompatibility, which refers to the ability of a material or device to perform its intended functions without causing harmful effects in living tissues. So these biocompatibility has to be kept in mind, toxicity has to be kept in mind, certain factors which can actually counter effect these mechanisms. So we have to keep them, these immune responses, degradation, we have to keep them in mind and continuously testing them in order to ensure that we assess the cytotoxicity, sensitization, and implantation studies. So these are certain biocompatibility, material stability, durability, all these have to be continuously considered. Sterilization, cleaning processes, how we can keep all this in mind because of safety considerations with these new technologies. So we know that these all advanced technologies can be quite crucial, but we also have to ensure that they're stable, they're durable, they have the compatibility, and so that we can use them to their optimum level. So bacterial additions to biomaterials, these are also important as well. So all these kind of also play quite a vital role when we kind of talk about patient safety, we kind of patient centricity and better patient outcome. So in order to understand certain, we also have to dive into some regulatory landscape here. So I would just want to, I'm very, very sorry I did not include India. I know most of us, I know we are kind of here, all our 90% our audience is from India, but I really thought that let me just give you an overall global overview, in order to understand how this regulatory landscape work overseas. So, you will have some idea of what's happening in India probably. So I thought maybe we can highlight what is happening overseas. So why is it important regulation? And so again, we have to understand that we want to create mechanisms which are safe and responsible, and we also have to maintain some public trust globally and foster some fair competition within the industry of medical devices as well as drug device combinations. So overview I'm going to give you in regulatory landscape is key definitions of certain drug device combinations in the EU, US, UK, and the Swiss market. We are also going to talk about current laws, regulations, and guidelines for combination products. We are going to talk about pharmacovigilance strategies, because here we are in order to make sure that patient is the center of our of our strategy that we are trying to implement, as well as we are also going to introduce certain vigilance reporting in the EU. So current regulations for regulations here for medical devices and combination products in the EU, US, Switzerland, and UK. So we are going to kind of dive deep a little bit into it. So in the EU, we have medical devices and combination products. So we have in EU Class 1, Class 2A, Class 2B, as well as Class 3. So in Class 1, we are talking about bandages as well as non-invasive thermometers. These are certain low-risk products here. Devices. Class 2A, which are low to medium risk devices such as surgical instruments, powered wheelchairs. Class 2B, we're talking about medium to high risk implantable catheters as well as drug-eluting stents, as well as Class 3 high risk, just active implantable devices or life-supporting devices. In the US, we are talking about Class 1, which are tongue depressors or general examination gloves. Class 2, which have special controls such as powered wheelchairs, infusion pumps, and Class 3 pre-market approvals such as pacemakers and artificial heart valves. In the UK, we have Class 1, which is again low risk, similar to EU, bandages and adhesive treatments. Class 2A, which has low to medium risk surgical instruments and syringes. Class 2B, which is medium to high risk implantable devices, drug delivery systems. Class 3, which are high risk active implantable devices or life supporting devices. In the area of, in the US, we have the FDA, which is primarily oversees medical devices and combination products. And, these we categorized based into class 1, class 2, or class 3. And we have two approval pathways, which is 510K, as well as clearance, as well as pre-market approval, PMA. And in PMA, we actually focus on those medical devices the regulatory pathway is quite stringent for those medical devices, especially for high-risk devices. Here, the process is that the manufacturer has to submit for high-risk devices extensive data, clinical trials, safety effectiveness, as well as FDA reviews are required, and approves if you can approve or even deny the application sometimes. And these are certain examples of class 3 medical devices, such as implantable pacemakers or artificial heart valves. Then we have 510K clearances. These are for moderate risk devices. These are the applications or the regulatory pathway which is adopted for moderate risk devices, such as class 1 or class 2, where the manufacturer has to just demonstrate substantial equivalence to a legally marketed device or a predicate, and the FDA reviews and grants clearance. So the examples are diagnostic equipments and surgical instruments. So in the EU, we have the MDR and which was established here in 2017, and IVDR as well, and which came into full-fledged application May 2021 and May 2022 respectively, replacing the previous MDD. These regulations are aiming to ensure a high level of protection for patients and users while promoting innovation. And there is more stringent requirement now for post-market surveillance, more transparency requirement, more clinical data which is required, and they are based on their intended purpose, mode of action, and potential risks. So the MDR provides specific rules for classifying drug-device combinations and takes into account the characteristics of both the drug and device components. And the drug-device combinations may be classified as class 3, highest risk, or lower risk, so depending on the complexity and risk profile. So definitions under the US, we have a product which is comprised of 2 or more regulated components that are physically, chemically, otherwise combined or mixed and produced as a single entity. So under the 21 CFR 3.2a, we have in the US, it is divided. Medical devices are divided into single entity, co-packaged, and cross-labeled. Whereas in the EU, we have integral, as well as co-packaged medicinal products and medical devices, as well as referenced in the patient or the package insert. So I just wanted to kind of give you an idea here of how EU and US function differently, where EU we have more of notified body involvement, whereas in the US it's more internal. But in the EU, we also require a CE or certificate or declaration of conformity, which is required for any medical devices in order to come into the market. So so classification of DDCs in the EU and US. In the US, it is basically based on primary mode of action, whereas in the EU, we have based on the intended purpose of the device and the associated inherent risks. So we kind of went through this classification of drug-device combinations in the EU and US. We have the class 1, class 2, class 3 in the US, whereas in EU, we have class 1, class 2A, class 2B, and class 3. So we see how the risk increases as new and more data requirements, and more data is required as the risk increases here. So under the FDA, DDC products or drug device are classified based on primary mode of action. And what is primary mode of action? That provides the most important therapeutic action of the combination product. So that could be either the device or the drug. So based on that, the application or the application procedure differs. So I just wanted to give you certain examples of what are certain how the primary mode of action differs and what could be the application procedure which is required. If it is classified as drug, when it is classified as device, and based on the primary mode of action, the application procedure or the regulatory landscape or how it has been approved differs. So under the drug, we have if the drug is the primary mode of action, then the application procedure is based on this primary mode of action. So for example, we have pre-filled syringes, intrauterine contraceptives whose primary purpose is to release progesterones, wound treatment products comprising a matrix whose primary purpose is the administration of medicinal products. So what is the primary purpose here? So depending upon that, the drug device combinations are classified and the application procedure to the FDA differs. So wound dressings containing any antimicrobial agent, where the primary action of the dressing is to administer the agent of the wound. So, and in devices, if the primary mode of action is the device, so for example, the drug-eluting coronary stents or bone cement or blood bags or spermicide coated condoms, or wound dressings, surgical or barrier drapes with antimicrobial agents, or electrodes with steroid coated tips. So the primary mode of action here is the device, and so thus the application procedure will differ. So even the reporting requirements will differ. For example, if it is classified, the application procedure, if it is a combination application or it is a constituent part application, when you say constituent part application, then both the constituent part application will have to communicate with each other if there is a serious adverse events, or if there is an emerging public risk, so that is within 5 days. And the reporting requirements will also differ. So if it is an application procedure which goes through the NDA or new drug application, then any adverse event has to be reported within 15 days. Or if the primary mode of action, or if it is classified as a device, the particular drug device combination, then the reporting requirement will differ, and any adverse event or any serious adverse event, malfunction will have to be reported within 30 days. So it depends, unless it is a serious case, unless it is a public emergency, which gets reported within 5 days. So all this depends on what is the primary mode of action, whether it's a drug, whether the drug device combination is a drug, what is the primary mode of action. And so this is really important here in order to understand the application procedure, how in the quality management system, as well as the regulatory landscape, as well as the reporting requirement in the area of pharmacovigilance. So just to kind of understand here the product category here, the integral, which spoke about integral drug device combinations, such as examples are the PMDI inhalers, pre-filled syringes. So who will be the regulatory agency here? The EMA or the medicine or the competent authority. So here the notified body has to provide any input, or the outcome could be the marketing authorization with a notified body opinion, non-integral drug device combination, dry powder inhaler co-packaged with medicine capsule. So this is just to kind of give you an overall good idea about how the regulatory agency, who kind of works here, what is the outcome, who certifies here the CE. Okay. So just to, and again, to give you an introduction to post-market safety surveillance of drug device combinations in the EU and the US, we have the post-marketing safety surveillance is an active process in both EU and the US, and that involves gathering and assessing feedbacks from users to ensure the ongoing safety of medical devices. In the EU, we have the MDR that includes guidelines for properly identifying potential risks. that may arise once devices are in use, or in the US, we have the final rule regarding the requirements for post-marketing safety surveillance of combination products, where we need the FDA, either we have the PMA or we have the 510K, but both require stringent pharmacovigilance systems in order to guarantee the safety and efficacy, effectiveness of drug-device combination products. Now, just to kind of give you an idea of some sort of an ancillary medicinal product substances which are also used in the EU, and these devices are now considered as class 3 devices. Clinical investigations are needed to prove the clinical benefit, and electronic system covering clinical trials is performed in the EU, and in order to justify the level of clinical evidence necessary to demonstrate conformity with MDR. So we have the PMS in order to report the serious events with field safety corrective actions, and the PMCF or the PSUR, which is required to be updated annually. We have the UDI system, which is also required. We have UDAMED, SSCP, batch verification. So these are all we kind of in order to ensure that we maintain, we kind of keep monitoring them and maintain safety, as well as we have optimized their usage, and in order to improve patient safety outcomes. So certain classification challenges that the EU poses right now is classification of medical devices. So when it comes to, we really don't know sometimes. There's a difference of opinion whether how the notified body can actually classify the medical device or the drug device combinations. It can be either the EMA may kind of classify differently into class 1, class 2A, 2B, or 3, or the notified body, so there is always some sort of a kind of a discrepancy or sometimes, and that has to be taken into consideration, as well as changes, sometimes evaluating what constitutes a substantial or significant major change. So because there is actually no such legal definition as how to the integral device. So when it comes to like whether it is an integrated medical drug device combinations, a non-integral, so there is, how do you kind of define that? So what constitutes a substantial or significant major change? So this is again another challenge which is posed in the EU. So for that, what are certain proposals which have come up that, through various stakeholders have come up, is in order to include customized evidence or generation plans, improve randomized trials, systematic implant retrieval for enhanced surveillance. So these are all proposals which are included in order to customize evidence or generation plans, okay? So these are again certain primary challenges in the EU. So unclarity of roles and responsibilities between the notified body. As I said, there is always a discrepancy sometimes between what could be what classification it holds, what is a substantial change, and how to comply with the device labeling requirements. Sometimes because all this can also create a deficiency in labeling some co-packaged devices, unclarity of roles and responsibilities between notified bodies and regulators. So we are going to talk about here post-marketing safety reporting in the EU and US. So we have the PMCR in the EU, or we have the PMCR in the US. So in the EU, we have post-marketing safety reporting in the EU as well as in the US. As I mentioned that in the EU, we have the specific post-market safety surveillance system for class 2A, 2B, and 3 devices, where the periodic safety update periodic safety update reports are required, and they have to be updated and they have to be provided periodically. And they're so critical in order to monitor the safeties, very similar to how we have in pharma for to monitor the safety of all these class 2A, 2B, and 3 devices. So we kind of, we know that a consistent and to ensure consistent and comprehensive adverse event reporting, and to identify safety signals and potential risks associated with EDCs. And in the PMCSR in the US, we have the primary voluntary reporting system. And so that kind of creates also big deficit here, because there could be underreporting of adverse events, because in the US it is primarily voluntary reporting system. And as I mentioned earlier, all medical device must report to the FDA within 30 days of becoming aware of any information suggesting a death or serious injury, or that a repeat malfunction of the device could potentially cause or contribute to a death or serious injury. But the whole challenge here is about underreporting, because it is primarily a voluntary reporting system. And we have healthcare professionals, patients, and manufacturers who play a very crucial role in reporting adverse events in the US. But there is so much need. There is a need to kind of train these individuals. There's a need here in order to improve awareness here, because as I mentioned earlier, that this is primarily a voluntary reporting system in the US. So these are certain kind of procedures. I just kind of combined some kind of regulations within in various in US, Europe, US, Canada, Australia, Japan. So some regulations which kind of you can keep in mind, so that we can allow post-market, to improve post-marketing surveillance plan, and in order to make a better comparison between the device and similar products available in the market globally. I just also wanted to highlight vigilance system here in the EU, which we have the incident reporting, as well as we have the field safety corrective actions here. And these are all very, field safety corrective, where the manufacturer has to report through field safety notice to the regulatory authority if there is any serious adverse events or any, so this gets reported and through field safety notice, but certain corrective actions that the marketing authorization authority can actually implement. And these reports need to be provided to the regulatory authority. So what is an incident reporting? An incident reporting which has to be filed if a device malfunctions, deteriorates in device performance, if there is inadequate instructions or inadequate labeling which results in death or serious injury, or which may lead to death or serious deterioration in the state of health if it were to recur. So incident criteria are that an event has occurred and the manufacturer's device is actually suspected to be the contributory cause of the incident, and the event has led to one of the very serious outcomes, such as death or serious deterioration in state of health of a patient, user, or other person. But the important part here is that it is very important to assess the link between the device and the incident. So in order for that, the manufacturer has to take into account the opinion based on available evidence of healthcare professionals, the results of the manufacturer's own preliminary assessment of the incident, evidence of previous similar incidents, as well as the other evidence held by the manufacturer. So these are all, it's very critical in order to understand the link between the device and the incident that the manufacturer has, that has to be the contributory cause in order to make such a claim. Okay. So that we can have this incident reporting. So kind of we move on from EU and the US, we want to also touch upon what is happening here in UK, which is, again, in UK, we also have the UK MDR, which was a regulation which was implemented in 2002, and which are the medical devices, which also include drug device combinations. And they basically align with the EU's MDR and the IVDR. And again, we talk about the classification rules here, which are very similar to what is implemented here in the EU. And the MHRA has published guidance documents on the classification of DDC, such as the guidance on legislation and drug device combination products, which was implemented in 2022. in Switzerland, which is really important because I'm in Switzerland here, so I really want to know more about this area of what is happening. So, the revised Swiss Medical Device Ordinance is actually expected to come into force in only 2024, following a transition period. And they have also kind of aligned their medical devices ordinance based on EU's MDR as well as the IVDR, and which will be soon implemented in 2024, and has published Swissmedic has published again guidance documents on the classification of TDCs, such as the guidance for industry drug device combination products in the year 2020. Now, what are the similarities? We want to know what are the similarities. We also want to know the differences in regulations. So all these areas, all these regions emphasize risk-based classifications for regulatory oversight. They require robust quality management systems for manufacturers, as well as they require pre-market clinical trials, especially for high-risk devices as well as combination products. Then there's a post-market safety surveillance as required, as well as reporting are crucial. But the differences are that there are variations in risk categories. We saw how they are classified. There's differences in that. The extent and design of clinical trials, which we also differ, as well as the conformity. So we saw that in the EU, which utilizes notified bodies, right? I mean, there is a very active role of notified body and conformity assessment here in the EU. But while in the UK and US, they rely primarily on internal procedures by manufacturers, with some involvement to some extent of designated bodies, but not to the extent that EU has involvement of notified bodies. We will kind of quickly go through quality management systems here as well. Quality management systems, which are kind of design control and risk managements, which are required here in order to identify, assess, and mitigate risk which are associated with device design. Manufacturing processes and validation, process validation, which ensures consistently producing safe and effective devices, validation elements, which includes equipment qualification, process performance, qualification, ongoing monitoring, as well as material stability, which is required, which is materials used in manufacturing must remain stable throughout the product life cycle. So quality management system also involves post-market safety surveillance and adverse event reporting. So we know about the adverse event reporting, the purpose, we all are aware of that as well, okay? In the EU, we have must establish also and maintain a robust post-marketing safety surveillance, the vigilance reports we talk about, complaints and clinical studies, periodic safety update which must be prepared for, especially for devices which fall into category of class 2A, 2B, and 3, and they basically have to also take into consideration the CAPAs. So in the UK, we also talk about post-marketing safety surveillance, where PSURs again are important, and they have to be submitted to the MHRA. And this also includes vigilance reporting, complaints, and clinical studies. So basically, the post-marketing safety surveillance requirements are pretty robust in both EU, UK, as well as in the US and in Switzerland as well. And they all, UK and US are quite aligned to EU MDR and IVDR. So, and they all require the submission of PSURs periodically and any corrective actions, and which are all included. And we have a very robust vigilance system for reporting adverse events and incidents. So certain best practices for post-marketing surveillance of drug devices which fall into quality management systems are that it should cover compliance with the regulatory requirements and patient safety, cover all aspects of the product life cycle, and the regular audits and reviews of the QMS are really important, and effective risk management processes are put so that in order to take into consideration potential risks, ongoing design and development through post-market, and manufacturers should have processes in place to identify, evaluate, and mitigate risk, as well as to implement corrective and preventive actions when necessary. So collaboration is quite critical here between the drug device manufacturers as well as with the regulatory authority. and sharing of any risk management procedures, interactions are pretty critical, and proactive communications, reporting to regulatory authorities, any keeping up to date with any. So manufacturer obligation is to be up to date with the regulatory changes and guidance updates. So we are talking here about how we can actually understand the root cause analysis or traceability of drug devices combination. So for that we have which can be done through for especially for robust post-marketing surveillance, like we have in unique device identification system to improve traceability in order to facilitate root cause analysis. But it can be quite challenging because sometimes the interactions, because between the drug and the device components, the UDI becomes quite challenging because because of the patency, because of the expiration dates, and how. So that is quite challenging when we have to do any to do effective post-marketing surveillance or to understand the root cause analysis of any adverse events. So here we're also talking about risk management procedures, which are also very crucial, right, for both the drugs. So all these procedures are risk-based, the drug device combinations are risk-based. So it's very important to identify any CAPAs in order to mitigate risk and ensure patient safety. So there is constant involving design modification, process changes, or updating labeling and instructions for use. So here we're kind of talking about collaborative initiating here, international harmonization. So, there are lots of rules which are coming up, such as global harmonization initiatives, such as IMDRF, Asian, and mutual recognition agreements, standardization efforts which are required. All these are agreements which are required in order to facilitate the acceptance of conformity assessments or reducing any redundant testing and regulatory burdens. So collaborative initiatives and post-market surveillances, so adverse event reporting systems. So we are talking here about how we can kind of improve post-marketing safety surveillance. So we are talking about mandatory reporting here, continuous analysis and risk assessment of reported adverse events. We are also talking about real-world evidence generation. So post-market clinical studies and registries, or collection analysis of real-world data, which is so critical, as we know that how when a drug or the device goes into a larger market, these analyses are so critical in order to ensure that we optimize the safety of the devices, as well as your drug device combinations, and proactively monitoring these risks so that we kind of are up to date about signal detection or risk monitoring programs and early identification of any signals or any potential safety issues. But it involves also quite a few challenges here. So challenges could be, as I said, initially related to inherent potential risks, such as any device failures, infections, user errors, or environmental factors. Or it could be also related to any manufacturing processes, such as medical device manufacturing, and any traditional processes, or any additive manufacturing, such as emerging as solution due to any customized issues or cost effectiveness or material variability. So these are all challenges which are involved in safety, or also keeping up to date with the safety guidelines of FDA or ISO 13485 for quality management systems, or compliance which is required in order. So the manufacturer is always facing challenges in the area of safety. It could be either related to regulatory, or either related to potential inherent risk of the device, or it could be related to the complexity of the design and manufacturing processes. So these challenges have to be always kept in mind, and we have to kind of keep working towards it. Or as I said earlier about the new technologies we talk about, we spoke about robotics, we spoke about nanotechnology, we spoke about 3D printing earlier, and implementing these new technologies can also be quite challenging, especially for the cost of developing and implementing new technologies, or in the area of regulatory approval of these new technologies, or how can we integrate these new technologies into our existing workflows, whether there is any potential skill gaps which are required, how we can train, how we can integrate these new technologies. All these are compliance with the regulatory approval, or simply, understanding how these new technologies can be implemented. So these are all challenges which are involved with new technologies. So and so how we can overcome these challenges and how we can move forward. So for that there is a need to collaborate. There is a need for continuous investment in this area of research and development. There's a need to kind of collaboration between industry and regulatory agencies. And there is also there's a potential for bias also in algorithms used, but there is a need for continuous collaboration in order to overcome these biases and ensuring equitable access to new technologies to avoid any widening healthcare disparities. So what are the challenges to post-market safety of medical devices? So as I said earlier, in the US,
Ma'am, can you conclude?
Okay, sorry. So lack of harmonization, complexities, evolving technologies, and underreporting. So these are certain key challenges we spoke about. Active surveillance. These are overcoming challenges. Are active surveillance which is required, collaboration, enhanced reporting, and just I can since this is on YouTube, we can always kind of go ahead and look into all these and read, because we are running short of time here. With this, I would like to kind of conclude my future imperatives that we have. I'm sorry, I did not take into consideration the timing here. Anyways, so I hope you will have the time to read and go through and look into the YouTube channel again and understand the future trajectory for continual improvement and the collaborative initiatives. So by this, I would like to conclude, and thank you so much, Dr. Chinmaya, for giving me this and Clovis Med for giving me this opportunity to speak about advanced how we can improve drug device combinations, post-marketing safety surveillance in this area through new technologies. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. John. It was nice presentation about the medical devices.
Okay, let me just stop sharing. Sorry about that, Dr. Chinmaya. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it is noise. So we will move to our next speaker, Dr. Jyoti Garhade. I would like to ask Ms. Bhagyashree Mishra to introduce her.
Yes, Chinmaya.
Good evening, Doctor.
Yes. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Shall I begin with my presentation?
No, just a minute.
Okay.
Just a minute.
Yes.
I will just